Tantu Panggelaran. Tantu Panggelaran is a prose text that tells the story of the creation of humans on the island of Java and all the rules that humans must obey. Tantu Panggelaran was written in Middle Javanese during the Majapahit era. A very important text edit was published in 1924 in Leiden by Dr.Th.Pigeaud. The development of the story in Tantu Panggelaran can be divided into several chapters. 1. Early existence of Java Island. At first the island of Java was uninhabited and in a chaotic condition, because the island of Java was always shaking, compare with a pumice rock that shook on the surface of the water. Therefore, the island of Java needs a mountain to stick it, so that it doesn't shake anymore. The mountain where Bhataravagar governed this chaotic situation was Mount Diong or Mount Diong. The process of the arrangement went as follows. The gods raised the peak of Mount Mahameru, Mount Semeru, and placed it in the west of the island of Java. But what happened was that the island of Java tipped over and the east of the island of Java was lifted upward. Therefore the gods moved it to the east, but on the way to moving the mountain to the east, the mountain was scattered along the way, so that there were mountains of Lau, Willis, Kelly, Kawi, Arjuna, Kumukas and finally Semeru. After that the island of Java did not shake anymore. 2. Human creation. After the island of Java no longer shook, Bhataravagar wanted to make humans inhabitants of the island of Java. For that he ordered Bhattara Brahma and Bhattara Vishnu to create humans. They created humans from fisted ground and then formed humans based on the image of a god. Brahma created a male human and Vishnu created a female human, which then the two humans created by the gods were reunited and they lived in love with each other. 3. The process of human civilization. In the beginning, humans were naked because they could not make clothes, did not stay in the house, could not speak. Therefore it can be said that the first humans to live on the island of Java did not have civilization. For that the gods were given the task by Bhataravagar to give lessons to humans, so that they could make clothes, make houses, could talk to one another. In essence, the gods teach the development of the Javanese human story about culture and civilization. Examples quoted from the book Tantu Panggelaran for this chapter. Thus said Bhataravagar, another term for Bhataravagar, my son, Brahma, come down to Java. Sharpen sharp objects, for example, arrows, machetes, chisels, abuts, axes, pickaxes, all human works. You will be called a blacksmith. You will sharpen those sharp objects in a place called Winduprakasa. The thumbs kw. Of your 2 feet are flanking and galvanizing, the iron arrows are filed. The arrows are sharpened by the toes of both feet, therefore you will be called Sujiwana as a blacksmith, because the thumbs masters of your feet sharpen iron. Therefore, blacksmiths are called masters, because your big toes become a working tool. This is my message to my son. Again my message to my son Wiswakarma. Come down to the island of Java to make a house, so that you can be imitated by humans. Therefore, you are named Huntahagi, build. As for you Iswara, come down to Java Island. Teach humans the teachings of speaking in language, especially the teachings of the 10 principles, 10 main things, and Pankasiska, 5 laws rules. You became the teacher of the village heads, so that you were named the village teacher on the island of Java. As for you Vishnu, come down to the island of Java. Let all your commands be obeyed by humans. All of your behavior is imitated by humans. You are the teacher of man, you should rule the earth. As for you, Mahadeva, you go down to Java. Thou shalt be a goldsmith and a human garment maker. Bhagavan Siptagupta should paint and color the jewelry, and make decorations similar to creation, using the tool of your thumb. Therefore, you will be named Siptankara as a painter. Number of religious deities in Bali. Names of deities. Indra and Prajapati, which are included in the deities of Astavasu are 1. Anala or Agni, god of fire. 2. Dava or Prithivi, goddess of the earth. 3. Anila or Vayu, god of wind. 4. Prabhasa or Dayas, sky god. 5. Pratyusa or Surya, sun god. 6. Aha or Savitar, the god of space. 7. Kandra or Soma, goddess of the moon. 8. Dhruva or Dhruva, god of the constellations of the planets. Diva Surya is described as the supreme deity, the deity of all the gods. The sun is the source and support of life that provides bright light and joy, removes the darkness of the night from ignorance, imparts knowledge to every being and gives light to the planets in the universe. This spell evidence supports that. Diva Surya as supreme deity. Ubayam Tamasasperi Jodas Pasienta Uttaram, Devam Devatra Suryamagan Majogirutamam. Meaning, behold, towering high in the sky, the brilliant light over the darkness has come. He is the sun god, the god of all the gods, his bright light is how beautiful. Bali is the earliest evidence of world civilization, which is marked by respect and worship of the sun as described above about the Atlantic civilization. Halley proves that the archipelago is the center of the Lemurian and Atlantic civilizations. Pay attention to the detail and perfection of the ritual to the sun, which still looks complete and still well preserved. It seems that no culture is still as complete as in Bali or its particular archipelago, which leads to reverence for the sun. Solar is not a ball of the sun, but the supreme god, the god of all the gods. According to Mr. Made Title, in fact all the deities mentioned in the Veda are names or other forms of Surya, the supreme deity. Basically, it is the sun that emits its own light, and Dewi is the feminine aspect of the gods. Dewi basically means dawn in the morning, Savior, more details Hyang Surya Raditya. Besides Dewa Surya with various aspects, other gods who are predominantly worshipped are Agni, god of fire, Indra, god of rain, king of the gods of heaven, Vayu, god of wind, as well as goddesses who are often worshipped are mentioned in mantras, including Saraswati, Savitri, Aditi, Suryaputri and others. These deities are generally described as anthropomorphic, human-like, with various advantages and disadvantages, superhuman, complete with weapons and vehicles. This is the result of the absence of change in the Puranic era, when the deity was composed, the deity was no longer worshipped, its function and role were replaced by the three main deities known as Trimurti. Lord Agni changed to Lord Brahma, Lord Indra and Varuna identified with Lord Vishnu, which is another name for Surya. Dewa Surya himself was identified with Shiva of the three gods with Parivara Devata, family of gods, magic, and his retinue received serious adoration. Adipum the god. Lord Brahma with his magic Saraswati, Lord Vishnu with his magic Shri and Lakshmi. Lord Shiva with his practice Parvati, who later became Durga and Kali, became the forerunner of tantric teachings. Bhattara Devanagari. Bhattara is a messenger of Brahman, God, as the protector of mankind in the Hindu tradition. Bhattara does not fully mean God because there are different definitions between Bhattara with gods, but in its development, the term Bhattara is identified with God. Bhattara who is female is called Bhattari. In Bali the gods and goddesses are also often referred to as Bhattara and Bhattari. The term Dewa, which means light, is less familiar in the hearts of the Balinese people. Unlike the case with Bhattara, Bhattara and Bhattari are saguna, scalar, visible figures, in the form of a god or goddess incarnating into the world in human form. Bhattara is a symbol of masculinity, male, symbol of strength. Bhattari is a symbol of feminism, Kebatan, woman, a symbol of motherhood. The task of this incarnation is to protect humanity from destruction. In the Javanese tradition in general, and in the puppet tradition in particular, the term Bhattara is used to refer to a god. In the Dharma religion tradition in Bali, the term Bhattara is pronounced Bhatar, and is equated or even identified with God, because it is the same. The same functions as a protector. For example, Bhattara Vishnu, Bhattara Brahma, Bhattara Kala, and so on. In the Hindu philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, Dewa is a sacred ray or a manifestation of Brahman, or God who is worshipped based on a specific function. In that case, the gods are different from Bhattara or Bhattara. The difference between Bhattara and Bhattara is because Dewa is the holy light of Brahman while Bhattara is the activity of Hyang Widi as a protector. In its application in Balinese society the name Bhattara is better known than the term God. This is because humans generally want protection. Some examples of changing the term from God to Bhattara. 1. God Brahma equals Bhattara Brahma. 2. Dewa Vishnu equals Bhattara Vishnu. 3. God Shiva equals Bhattara Siva. 4. Dewa Iswara equals Bhattara Iswara. 5. Dewa Mahadeva equals Bhattara Mahadeva and so on. God the Balinese. In the book Brahmasutra II it is stated that God is the origin of all this. So God Almighty is the origin or source and return at the same time. The whole universe and its Isin. In Balinese religious beliefs, Brahman or God is only one, there is no second, but because of his greatness and glory, the sages and wise people call it by various names. regarding divinity, contained in several sacred verses of religion in Bali, 20.LEMURIA. Believe in the existence of God Brahman. Sacred building functions. At first, some experts suspected that it was the place for the ashes of a king or a highly respected figure in society in the past. This assumption is based in the term temple associated with the words Kandika, which is another name for goddess Durga. As we know that goddess Durga is always associated with the goddess of death or death. They consider that after the king or figure died, they were burned along with various ceremonies. After the cremation ceremony, the ashes of their bodies were placed in the pripa and then planted in the priji of the temple. Priji temple is a small hole that is deep enough in the room in the temple. This kind of assumption seems to be deeply rooted in the definition of a temple by Raffles, that the temple is also called a cupola by the people of East Java, which functions as a cemetery. Doubts later arose, because the people of East Java were not Hindus, so the question arose from where they got the information that a cupola is the same as a temple. The answer has not been found so far. In the book that the author wrote entitled Borobudur Not a Temple, this can be understood clearly, in addition to the book that discusses in more detail the book Borobudur True Back History. In this book the author explains plainly that Borobudur was not built in the 8th century and not built by the Sailendra Wangsa who were not Hindu or Buddhist. These doubts got stronger after careful research was carried out, which was also accompanied by chemical laboratory studies of the charcoal, ash mixture of bone fragments and soil found in several temple flakes. The results of the study stated that the ashes were not necessarily human ashes, nor were the remains of bone fragments which turned out to be not human bones but animal bones which may have been the remains of ceremonial means. When it is related to the process of cremating the corpse of a king or a glorified figure, the objects found in the pripa are close to the same. From a number of literary sources such as Pararatan and Negarakertagama, for example, it is known that the cremation ceremony for a king or a glorified figure begins with the cremation of the corpse in all forms of the ceremony, then the ashes are carried or washed into the sea or in a river that empties into the sea. The ceremony is carried out in several stages until the last stage is called the Srata Ceremony. This ceremony is the release of the spirit from all worldly ties that may still be binding, so that the spirit can unite with its god of dropping. As a physical symbol, a kind of doll is made from selected wooden leaves which is called Puspasarira. As the closing ceremony, the Puspasarira ceremony is also carried out to sea. Protector King. Because the king is the protector of the people, even though he has died and his spirit is united with his god, the king is still considered the protector of the people in this afterlife. So after the king becomes a god, a sacred building is erected to glorify him, accompanied by making a statue of a god who is considered dripping in the king and placed in the main room of the temple. Under the statue is stored pripa containing various types of objects, such as metal scraps, agate, and several other types of gems accompanied by offerings. These objects are symbols of the physical substances of the king who have united with his god of dropping. When worship is done, the physical body of the priji is symbolically raised and the spirit that is residing in the cavity of the roof of the temple is lowered and then together are inserted into the statue so that the statue becomes alive. On this basis, it is clear that the construction of temples is aimed at glorifying the king, figure who is highly honored and functions as a place of worship for kings who have become gods as well as their penitent gods, as a manifestation of God Almighty. As for the shape of the statue which is distilled in the temple in accordance with the religious flow of the king which was followed all his life. If the king adheres to the Shivaist sect, it is the Shiva statue that is distilled in the temple. Likewise, if the king adheres to the Vaishnava sect, then the Vaishnava statue is distilled in the main room of the temple. After these kingdoms disappeared from the land of Java, the indigenous religions and cultures began to bleed and became more and more submerged. Only the splendor remains in the form of sacred buildings, temples, which are somewhat resistant to the ferocity of the Kala. However, it still stands tall even though it has been abandoned by users and maintenance. Even so, the greatness and religious values are still engraved in the hearts of the people around them who have converted. This resulted in a change in the function of the temple. From the latest observations, it is known that there are several temples in Java that still function in people's lives. For example, Prambanan in Klaten, Central Java, Penataran in Blitar, East Java. However, these efforts need to be accompanied by a more careful study of the existence of the temples, so that there is compatibility between the function of the temple and the ceremony as well as religious behavior. The supreme god of the Balinese. The concept of deity in Bali is worshipping God based on dysfunction, which is better known as the manifestation of Brahman, often called Dewa Div. The divine light of Brahman is positive. Because there are so many functions of God that permeate the law of karma in his creation, more and more titles of God are reflected by the naming of God. The supreme God of the Balinese. The goal of Balinese religion is Moksadam Jagati Nasiya Iti Dharma. The meaning is, Moksa is the highest religious goal, but now look for happiness in life. Jagatita, fulfill your obligations, make your loved ones happy, but all of it must be based on Dharma. Surya is never free from worship, and neither does the god Agni, fire, incense. The indication of the solar god as the supreme god can be seen from the Dasa script, where it is stated that the 10 holy letters of magic are Saba Tantu, and when read in the Balinese dialect it will read Sa, the name of Shiva Ya, which means as long as the sun shines especially, it can be called Shiva. This understanding was developed by the Siddhanta sect, which dominates the spirituality in Bali. Samadhari aka Surya is seen as the main thing. Not only in Bali, even from the early days of human civilization, the solar god was crowned as the supreme god, a representative of God. The evidence. Ancient Egyptian civilization, the god Atum, or the god Ra, sun god as the supreme god. The Aztecs, Incas and Maya, South America, made Huitzilopochtli, the sun god, as the highest god. The Frisian people, ancient Phoenicia, worship the god Wralda. The sun is the supreme god of the ancient Greeks. Know the god Apollo, the son of the Sumerians. Know the god Shamash. The supreme deity seen from the 5 worship order. The Amorites Babylonians worship the god Marduk. The sun is the highest god. Lord Surya is the sun god. He is worshipped as the face of Agni in the sky. Arjveda X 7.3, the eyes of Mitra and Varuna, as the gods of the eye or all-seeing, as the measure of the day. Arjveda 1. 50.7, as the creator of all things. Arjveda 1170. 4, as a celestial planet. Arjveda X 177. 1, as a wheel. Arjveda 1. 175.4, destroyer of darkness, healer of the sick, and as a Pandita Purohita for the gods. Arjveda 8. 90.12. The word Svar, Svah is the origin of the word Surya. It is also called Divakara. The sun god is always present in every Yajna ceremony. Besides that, a Sulinga is also called the sun for his Sisya, and the Sulinga routinely performs Suryaswana worship. Read Pyong Surya Raditya Dewa Matahari. God of the sun in Indonesia. In the Ramayana, Surya is mentioned as the father of King Sugriva, who helped Rama and Lakshmana in defeating King Ravana. He also trained Hanuman as his teacher. In the Mahabharata, Kunti received a mantra from the sage, Durvasa. If spoken, she would be able to summon every god and bear children by him. Believing in the power of this mantra, Kunti has unwittingly summoned Surya, but when Surya appears, he gets scared and requests him to return. However, Surya has an obligation to fulfill the mantra before returning. Surya miraculously got Dewi Kunti to bear a child, while maintaining her virginity so that she, as an unmarried princess, would not have to face any shame or be subjected to public questioning. Kunti feels compelled to leave behind the child, Karna, who grows up to become one of the central characters in the great battle of Kurukshetra. In the mythology, Surya Dewa is the most intelligent disciple of Lord Shiva, who can match the intelligence of Lord Shiva. So that Dewa Surya was given the title Surya Raditya and was used as an example to find out the intelligence or supernatural powers of Bhataravagar. And as a thank you from Bhataravagar, Lord Shiva was given an honorary title by the name of Bhataraguru, because he was the teacher of the gods. In the Hindu concept in Bali there is a Pelinga called Pelinga Surya or Padmasana, which is a place to worship Lord Shiva, who manifests as Shiva Raditya or the sun god. In the Yajurveda, there are several special rituals for Sulinga who worship God in the morning in its manifestation as Lord Surya, which is called Suryaswana or Surya Namaskar, which means worshipping Lord Surya. In the Panka Semba Mantram there is also a special incantation aimed at Shiva Raditya. The root word Dewa, where Div equals rays, the sun never escapes worship, neither does the god Agni, fire, incense. The indication of the solar god as the highest god can be seen from the literary Dasa script, where it is stated that the 10 holy letters of Kemujizatan are Saba Tantu, and when read in a Balinese dialect it will read Sa, name Shiva Ya. which means as long as it shines. Ai in Balinese means sun, his name is Siwa. This understanding was developed by the Siddhanta sect which dominates the spirituality in Bali. Samadhihari aka Surya is seen as the main thing. The importance of Dewa Surya can be seen from the existence of Sangha Surya, which is obligatory to always be present in every Yajna ceremony in Bali. And this is stated in several Balinese literary manuscripts, one of which is Lontar Bama Kirti. The following is an excerpt. Behavior ing Yajna Madana Dana, Kasukan Sarwa Mulya Saraja Yogya then Duluran Bojana Mawang Sarwa Fala first, then the witness Sanghyang Siwadadya, Pinuja Danira the Siddhyodi, the Queen Natha is also the authority of Amanguna Yajna Mankana. Lantarbama Kirti means the Yajna procedure is by distributing funds of pleasure. Everything that starts is the contents of the kingdom, accompanied by the offering of dishes and tubers and fruits, as a witness to Sanghyang Siwadadya, who is adored by the priest who has perfect knowledge. A king can perform the yajna. That is so. Om Adityasya Param Jyoti, Raktati Hanamostu, Sweta Pankaja Madhyasta, Bhaskaraya Namostut. Om, O God, in the form of great splendor, son of Aditi, with a red light worship before you, you who are sitting in the middle of a white lotus, worship you, maker of light. From the earliest days of human civilization, the sun god was crowned the supreme god, the representative of God. Ancient Egyptian civilization, the god Atum, or the god Ra, sun god is supreme god. The Aztecs, Incas and Maya, South America, made Huitzilopochtli. The sun god is the highest god. The Frisian, ancient Phoenicia, worshipped god Wr Alda. The sun is the supreme god of the ancient Greeks, knew the god Apollo. The son of the Sumerians, knew the god Shamash of the Amorites. Babylonia, worshipped the god Marduk. The sun is the highest god. Even in the land of Peru in southwest Latin America, the people there also worship the sun god or the god Raditya in Hinduism. Their day of celebration also falls on solstice days or based in the sun. They were known as the Incas from the Sanskrit word, Ina, which means sun. Here are some verse quotes related to the sun. Dewa Surya in Atharvaveda. Ava Devas Tarayanti, Sapta Suryasya Rasmaya, Apa Samudriya Dara, Atharvaveda V.107.1. Meaning, the 7 rays of the sun, lifting the water vapor from the ocean up to the sky, and all of this causes the rain. Lord Shiva destroyed Trikorasura. The following are the names and meanings according to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and the Mahabharata Itihasa. The 8 Vasu are: 1. Agni, god of fire, heat of fire, or Anala, also called Agni, which means to live. 2. Prithivi, earth god, earth, or Dara, meaning support. 3. Vayu, god of wind, wind, or Anila, which means wind. 4. Dayas, sky god, heaven, or Prabhasa, which means shining dawn. Sangha Tawang and Sangha Surya. As we know, the Balinese people indirectly give an important position to one of the 33 gods in the Arji Veda, namely Dewa Surya. The proof is by placing Sangha Surya in each of its yajna activities. At least there is a high position that describes the linga presence of the solar god. In some areas, Danga Surya is also called Sanggah Agam. Sangha means source, while Agam is the authority or charisma of Sanghyang Siwa Raditya or Sanghyang Surya. Surya studios are made higher than the waist, even during building Malaspa ceremonies, renovating buildings, and when doing Payadalan, Dewa Yajna works. The solar studio was made higher than the height of the occupants of the house where the work of his yad is carried out. In general, the Sangha Surya is made with 4 bamboo sticks which are stuck on the northeast side where the Yajna works. This rump is in the shape of a rectangle similar to the Sangha Tawang, only has 1 room and uses a thatch or centipede roof. This rebuttal is used in every religious ceremony, which is a rain station for Sanghyang Siwa Raditya.
Indonesia.